have the opportunity to be a part of.
Heading out to something very exciting. You know, this week it's Shabbat Parshat Parah, where we read about the red heifer, the Parah Aduma. We do that because Pesach is coming up and we want to spiritually prepare, purify ourselves. And since we don't have the actual Parah Aduma to purify ourselves, so we read about it in the Torah in preparation. But the truth is that there are people who are working on making an actual Parah Aduma, a red heifer. And today at ancient Shiloh, the place where the tabernacle was, they're having a special conference all about the red heifer, the Parah Aduma. And they're going to be putting on display the red heifers that they have brought from Texas that are almost ready to be used. And I'm going to show you all about it.
We Jewish people have been praying and waiting and dreaming for 2,000 years for the temple to be rebuilt in Jerusalem. And in our lifetime and in the lifetimes of our parents and grandparents, we've seen so many things take place that are moving Am Yisrael closer and closer to seeing this dream fulfilled. Of course, there's been mass return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel in the last 100 years plus. And the land of Israel has been rebuilt and the agriculture has been brought back. But the most important thing that we're all waiting for is for the temple to be rebuilt and for Mashiach to come and to complete the redemption of the people of Israel and of the whole world. And one of the necessary prerequisites for building the temple is something called the Parah Aduma, or in English, the red heifer. The Torah tells us that a Jewish person who's been in contact with a corpse, or in the same room with a corpse, or under the same roof with a corpse, they become ritually impure, what's called tumat met. Now, there are all kinds of ritual impurity in the Bible. Somebody who touches a dead rodent, a woman who menstruates, and so on and so forth. All of these impurities can be removed by immersing in a ritual bath called a mikvah. But the ritual impurity, or tumah, that comes from contact with a corpse is considered the highest level of ritual impurity, and it can only be removed through a very special ceremony that's delineated in the Torah called the red heifer ceremony. And what's done is they take a red cow. The red cow has to be completely and utterly free of any blemishes. It can never have had a yoke of any kind placed on its back or caused to carry any kind of load. And the cow must be completely and fully red. That is to say, there can't be any brown hairs or black hairs or white hairs. It has to be completely and fully red from head to tail. And the way the ceremony was done is they would take that red cow to a location outside Jerusalem from which you could see the place of the temple and into the door of the temple, all the way into the Holy of Holies. And there they would burn this red cow. They would slaughter it and then burn it together with a hyssop branch and cedar branch and special crimson wool, and they would let it burn down to ashes. Now, these ashes would be mixed together with pure spring water by a kohen, by a priest from the temple, and that would be sprinkled on the individual who is ritually impure, and this would cause that person to become ritually pure, which means that they can now enter the temple, bring sacrifices, and participate in the rituals in the temple. Well, our tradition tells us that Moses made the first of these red heifers 3,300 years ago. And from his time till the destruction of the second temple, 8 more were made, sprinkled on the individual who is ritually impure, and this would cause that person to become ritually pure, which means that they can now enter the temple, bring sacrifices, and participate in the rituals in the temple. Well, our tradition tells us that Moses made the first of these red heifers 3,300 years ago. And from his time till the destruction of the second temple, 8 more were made, for a total of 9. And the tradition is that only at the end of days, when Mashiach comes and the temple is rebuilt, will the 10th one be prepared as a preparation or a prerequisite for the renewal of the temple service that we've all been waiting for since the destruction of the temple for 2,000 years. Well, yesterday, in the location of ancient Shiloh, the location where the tabernacle was for almost 400 years, They had a special conference that I got to take place in. And the conference was because there at ancient Shiloh, they have been raising a herd of red heifers. So the conference, the way it worked was they had a series of lecturers who taught us about the halachot, the laws of the red heifer, gave us the background of how they identified these red heifers and what they've been doing to raise them and all the precautions and the care that they've taken to raise them. And basically, these red heifers were identified in Texas. And several years ago, they were brought to Israel. And in the last few months, they brought them to ancient Shiloh, where they've been caring for them and pampering them and keeping track of which ones are still valid for the use in the ceremony. So after the lectures and all the explanations, they took us out to the location and we got to see the red heifers for ourselves. And you can see here that this is a herd of cows. They're a special red Angus cow that they brought from Texas. And when we think of red heifer, you might think of something that's like, bright red, like a red crayon or something like that. But of course, there's no such color in cows in nature. And so when it means red, it means like a red earth kind of color. Actually, the word adom in Hebrew, or aduma, the feminine version is aduma, para aduma, the red heifer, is etymologically related to the word for earth, which is adama. Adama is earth, aduma is red. So clearly, when it says red heifer, it means it's a shade of earth color, a reddish earth color. And you can see that these cows indeed are this deep reddish red earth color. And so we got to see them, we got to photograph them, we got to take our pictures together with them. And this to me was a once in a lifetime experience. It's something, like I said, that I never could have imagined that I would have the merit and the honor to participate in. And to me, this is just another sign that we're getting closer than ever to the final redemption, to the days of Mashiach. And recently, CBS News released a clip, I'll link it here in the description of the video, where they showed how Hamas launched the attack against Israel in part because they're concerned that the Jews plan to rebuild the temple.
But one confounding yet eye-opening motive has escaped the headlines. In a recent speech, a Hamas spokesman blamed the Jews for bringing red cows to the Holy Land. The cows he's talking about at a secure, undisclosed location are these.
And rebuilding the temple, of course, in their eyes is a threat to the Dome of the Rock. And Hamas actually pointed out that the Jews are preparing red heifers in order to build the temple. And this is something that they're very afraid of. And to me, when our worst enemies are afraid of something that we're doing, that's a sign that we're doing the right thing, because these are the people who are on the side of evil, and good is the opposite of the side of evil. So if this is something that bothers them so much, to me, it's a sign that this is something we must be involved in. In fact, the very conference I participated in, the morning prior to the conference, which took place in the afternoon and the evening, Hezbollah in Lebanon wrote about this conference on their Telegram channel, basically saying, look at what the Jews are planning to do. So if our enemies are up in arms, that means we're on the right track. And this week, in all the synagogues around the world, all Jews will read what's called Parashat Para, the portion of the Torah that speaks about the Para Aduma. This is something that's been instituted by our rabbis since the temple was destroyed, so that we don't forget this mitzvah of the Para Aduma. And especially in the weeks leading up to Passover, Pesach, when every Jewish male would ascend to the temple and would bring his paschal lamb for him and his family and his group. So when we're preparing for that and we're hoping that we'll have the temple and be able to bring our Passover sacrifice, the rabbis instituted that we should remind ourselves of the Para Aduma, because that would be part of the process. Because the average person throughout the year would come in contact with a corpse or attend a funeral or visit a cemetery. And before they would go up to the temple, they would have to have the water of the Para Aduma sprinkled upon them. So this week, when we read about this in the synagogue all over the world, we can know that this process is on its way and that Mashiach is closer than ever. If you like content like this about Israel, Judaism, and the Hebrew Bible, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. God bless you. Shalom.